When did you discover your boring coworker had an insane double life? Gerald from accounting was the most boring human being I'd ever met. Brown slacks every day, same turkey sandwich for lunch, left at exactly 5 o'clock p.m. Never came to happy hours, never joined the office March Madness pool. His desk had one photo, him and his elderly mother at what looked like Applebee's. When people asked about his weekend, he'd say quiet and go back to his spreadsheets. I'd worked next to him for 3 years and knew nothing about him, except he drove a beige Corolla and always microwaved fish on Fridays. The first weird thing I noticed was the parking lot incident. I'd stayed late finishing a report, walked out around 9 p.m. Gerald's Corolla was still there, but he was nowhere in the building. Security said he'd badged out at 5 o'clock like always. Figured maybe he carpooled with someone, though I couldn't imagine Gerald having friends. Found out later from building security that his car stayed overnight at least twice a week. They thought he had a drinking problem. Took Ubers home. Then there was the phone call. Gerald never took personal calls, but one Tuesday his cell rang during a meeting. He went white when he saw the number. Actually ran out of the conference room. I could hear him in the hallway speaking what sounded like Russian or something similar. When he came back, he said it was his mother's doctor, but I'd heard him say "da" multiple times, and I knew that meant yes in Russian. Why would his mother's doctor speak Russian? The revelation started with a stupid printer jam. I needed Gerald's help with a tax form. Went to his desk while he was at lunch. His computer was locked, but he had a notebook open. Most of it was normal accounting stuff, but on one page, he'd written a list of what looked like addresses. Each had a time next to it. 11 p.m., 2 a.m., 3:30 a.m. Weird times for an accountant who supposedly went to bed at 9:30 every night. I probably should have minded my own business, but curiosity got the better of me. I copied down one of the addresses, looked it up when I got home. It was a warehouse in the industrial district. No business name, just a numbered building. The next Friday, I told my roommate I was working late, but instead I drove to that warehouse. Parked across the street, felt like an idiot playing detective. Almost left twice. At exactly 11 p.m., cars started arriving. Expensive cars, Mercedes, BMWs, a few Ferraris. Then Gerald's beige Corolla pulled up, but the man who got out didn't move like our Gerald. He walked with confidence, wearing an expensive-looking black suit I'd never seen him in. He went to the trunk, pulled out a metal briefcase, walked into the warehouse like he owned the place. I waited 15 minutes, then followed. The front door was unlocked. Inside, I could hear classical music, voices, laughter. I crept down a hallway toward the sound, heart pounding so hard I thought everyone would hear it. Peeked around a corner and nearly gasped out loud. The warehouse had been converted into an illegal casino. Not some sketchy poker game, but a full operation. Roulette wheels, card tables, a bar with crystal decanters, men in tuxedos, women in evening gowns. And there was Gerald, running a blackjack table like he'd been doing it his whole life. Shuffling cards with one hand, collecting chips with the other, calling out bets in that same monotone voice he used for quarterly reports. But his eyes were different, sharp, alert, watching every player, every movement of money. A woman in a red dress whispered something in his ear, and he actually smiled. I'd never seen Gerald smile. I backed out slowly, drove home in a daze. Spent the weekend researching underground gambling, trying to understand what I'd seen. It turned out there was a whole network of these places, run by people you'd never suspect. The boring accountant, the quiet librarian, the suburban dad. They made more in one night than Gerald made in a month at our company. Monday morning, Gerald was back at his desk by 8 o'clock a.m., wearing his brown slacks, eating instant oatmeal. I watched him fill out expense reports and thought about him dealing cards to millionaires. Around lunch, he caught me staring. "Something wrong, Janet?" he asked in that flat voice. I shook my head, went back to my computer, but later I found a note on my desk, just an address and a time. Friday, 11 p.m. I went back that Friday. This time, Gerald was waiting for me at the door. "I figured you'd followed me," he said, still in that monotone. "Security cameras caught your car." My heart stopped, but he just shrugged. "You can watch if you want, just don't interfere with the games." He walked away before I could respond. I never told anyone about Gerald's double life. Still don't fully understand it. He still brings turkey sandwiches, still leaves at 5 o'clock, still has that photo with his mother. But sometimes I catch him shuffling papers with one hand, the same way he shuffled cards. And once, when the CFO was bragging about his Vegas weekend, I saw Gerald smirk. Just for a second. The smallest hint that our boring accountant could destroy him at any card game ever invented.